It's the Michael Patrick Leahy Show, broadcasting live from downtown Nashville. And now, here's Michael Patrick Leahy.
And welcome back to the Tennessee bonus hour of the Michael Patrick Leahy Show. You can listen to us in Nashville on 760 AM WENO, and in Memphis, 730 AM KQPN, and all across the, go to newstalk760.com, download the app. You can listen to us in the bonus hour there. You can reach me on X, formerly Twitter, Michael P. Leahy, Michael P. Leahy. That's yours truly. We are joined in studio now by the original All-Star panelist, my friend for over 30 years, Crom Carmichael. Good morning, Crom.
Greetings, kind sir.
And we are delighted to have you here. I'm going to start off with a little bit, I know this is going to shock you.
Okay.
A little bit of hypocrisy.
Oh, hypocrisy?
From the regime media.
Oh, my goodness.
And one particularly...
You have so many choices. I'd be interested to see which one you decided to select.
Well, that is the problem.
Yes,
every morning I get up and I say, which example of regime media hypocrisy shall I pick? And if I really...
And you're allowed up to 3 a day, you know.
But there are so many of them.
I know.
I would spend 24 hours a day if I just didn't pick the most egregious. Okay. Jimmy Kimmel said something that to an audience of, I don't know how many, but broadcast over ABC the other night. And if he had tweeted this, and if he were an obscure conservative, he would have been charged with election interference, convicted, and sent to prison. But he's not an obscure conservative, and he said it to the nationwide audience of ABC, and I think he's, let's see
what he said.
Let's see what he says.
Give him a call. Wrestle that mop bucket out of his hands. I don't know if you guys know about this, but we have an election coming up on... I feel pretty relaxed about it. I've really been enjoying the week. It's in times like these, it's important to remember that cannabis is legal in our state. But you have to vote. If you can vote early, vote early. If you can't vote early, vote on time. If you want to vote for Trump, vote late, vote very late. Do your voting on Thursday or maybe Friday. This will be my third time voting against Donald Trump. Fifth, if you count the 2 times.
Okay, there you go. So he said, if you're a Republican and you want to vote for Donald Trump, vote on Thursday.
Yeah.
Well, that's 2 days after the election closes.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
And this was a joke that somebody did on Twitter, X, in 2020, and the Department of Justice went after him and convicted him of election interference.
Really?
Yeah.
I had forgotten that. So, I mean, what Kimmel has done is clearly worse. Because it's
a wider
broadcasting.
Audience.
Yeah, and ABC, because is that show live or is it?
It's they say it taped as live. In other words, they tape it earlier in the day.
Yeah,
so they'll tape it at 5 o'clock.
So ABC, the executives had a chance to edit that out. So they might be involved in election interference also.
Yeah.
And that was done after the election too, wasn't it? You're talking about, if my memory is correct, it took a new Justice Department to then do it. And so Jimmy Kimmel is liable, as are the executives who allowed that to go on the air.
They also have a broadcast license, which has been granted to them.
Yeah.
And, Donald Trump has said CBS because you saw Donald Trump is suing CBS for $10 billion.
Yes.
Because they engaged in election interference by editing untruthfully the Kamala Harris interview.
Right. And what's going to be interesting in that lawsuit is the discovery process, because there'll be emails and texts between people at CBS on why they should edit or not edit. In other words, this wasn't done in a vacuum. What CBS did was not done in a vacuum.
Mm-hmm.
And so this will be very interesting, and I think it's important in a free society, a society as people living among equals, is that if CBS is not transparent, and they do have a license that's granted to them by the federal government that assumes that they will be fair in using their license, that they could be in trouble. And so
I hope they will be in trouble.
Yeah. Well, and the lawsuit is a civil matter, It's not a Justice Department matter; it's a civil matter. But if Trump wins the election, that suit will proceed.
I think
CBS it's like CNN right now is fighting like crazy to not disclose the way they think about the news. I can't remember the exact term of it, but CNN has an internal proprietary, they think of as proprietary, but in the discovery process, you get to ask questions, and CNN does not want to disclose how they think about the news. And apparently they have that almost like an employee manual, and so they don't want that to become known. Which, to me, if you're a news organization, you ought to be very transparent with your public as to how you think about generating your content.
Yeah.
You should be.
I think transparency is a good thing.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of that, you have an article by, I think, Ken Koshigian. Isn't he a former Reagan advisor?
Well, I don't have the very bottom of it, which is where it tells you stuff.
Yeah,
about,
I'm pretty sure
author.
he was with Reagan.
But he wrote an interesting article, and this is in October 31, so it was yesterday.
Of the Wall Street Journal.
Wall Street Journal.
Yeah.
And the title of it is "The 3 Reasons Harris Will Lose the Election." And I just think, I certainly at this point I am cautiously optimistic, but that means that I'm
Ken Koshigian, by the way.
I'm about 70% confident.
Ken Koshigian was a speechwriter for Richard Nixon and Ronald Reagan.
Ooh, so he's a pretty old guy. I mean, if he was writing speeches for Nixon in the 70s, then that probably makes him 85 to 90.
Yeah. In fact, he's doing. We need to get him on. He was on the Bob Frantz show in Cleveland, Ohio.
Yeah.
3 days ago.
Yeah.
So we could reach out and get him on.
Yeah.
But I think he's probably pretty close to 90.
Okay. All right. Well, good for him. Good for him.
Yeah,
and the fact that he's still writing and still doing interviews, that's really good for him. So that's great. But here's kind of the 3 reasons. We'll kind of go into each one of these a little bit because he does. He says, first is a historic Democrat voting bloc will desert her in margins that haven't anticipated. In other words, the polls that are being taken, he says, don't reflect what he's about to say here. Hundreds of thousands of traditional Democrats who came of age in the post-war America can't visualize Ms. Harris walking in the footsteps of their legendary party heroes like Roosevelt, FDR, Harry Truman, John Kennedy, Lyndon, even Hubert Humphrey. She suffers from a status gap that $1 billion of advertising can't fix. So he goes on, says, the vice president has had nearly 4 years to rise to levels of national and international prominence to expand her vita beyond being Joe Biden's choice to fill a designated slot and basically the I slot. And she's not done anything to prove that she's worthy. Mm-hmm. But then that's true with her entire life. The way she got her previous... She failed up. Yeah. And
everywhere.
So, yes. Second, Harris was unprepared to enter national politics and at the 11th hour relies on being propped up by the likes of Barack Obama and Bill Clinton. So she's not strong enough to appeal to voters on her own. And that's really, if you really stop and think about that, think about her. She got her first 2 jobs. In fact, her first 3 jobs in California, she got them because Willie Brown, and that was, Willie Brown was her. She was a mistress of Willie Brown when he was Speaker of the House in California, and because of that, she got the DEA's job, then the DA's job, then she got a prosecutor's job, or maybe it was she got the U.S. Senate seat, and each time Willie Brown
helped her out,
made everybody else leave the field, and she got to be vice president the same way.
And so we'll have more on her failing up.
On her the third one we'll get in the next segment.
Oh, yeah. I can't wait.
Oh, all right.
We'll be back with Crom Carmichael after this on Michael Patrick Leahy.
Hi folks, John Fredericks here for Freedom Alliance. Veterans are still struggling with the wounds of war. They came home with injuries that changed them forever. The flag-burning troublemakers in our streets remind me how fortunate we are to have patriots who served and fought, sacrificed, and never complained. We need to support them through organizations like the Freedom Alliance. It's Military Appreciation Month and time to support those who serve. Freedom Alliance is caring for combat veterans and military families. Combat veterans in the worst, most dangerous places on earth. Freedom Alliance takes them to nature's most relaxing locations so they can heal. Freedom Alliance gives injured troops mortgage-free homes, new cars, and all-terrain wheelchairs. For wounded vets, there's nothing like the stability of your own home, the reinsurance of a reliable vehicle, or the independence of a wheelchair that navigates snow, ice, beach, pasture, or most any terrain. Let's fight for those who fought for us. Go to freedomalliance.org/Godzilla and make a monthly gift that will improve the life of a military hero. That's freedomalliance.org/Godzilla. Make a contribution today.
If you're like me, most moms find it difficult to prioritize self-care. Hi, it's Colleen, Program Director at the John Fredericks Media Network. With the demands of programming 13 radio stations, it's easy to forget about the things I should do for myself daily. And that's why I started with our company's Women's Challenge with Native Path Collagen Peptides. It's affordable and convenient care in just one scoop a day. There are so many incredible health benefits like bone and joint support, metabolism booster, and hair, skin, and nail improvement. I like to take a moment each day to prioritize myself and indulge in the health-boosting benefits of Native Path Collagen Peptides. I love mixing it up with all the different smoothie recipes, too. Learn more about Native Path Collagen Peptides and read 7 important reasons why you should be taking collagen peptides at getnativepath.com/Godzilla. Prioritize your self-care with Native Path Collagen Peptides. Try it risk-free for as low as $21 today and get free shipping at getnativepath.com/Godzilla.
Target.com. Target.com is an online e-commerce tire retailer. We are here to serve the American public with the best possible customer service, the best pricing, and we make it extremely easy. We have many name brands and a lot of low-cost tires. The price is right, and it's easy. You go online to Target.com, Tireget.com, Target.com. You go there, you put your zip code in, all the inventory displays right in front of you. You can call in for help if you want to. We'll help you get the tire that you need. But we will take the tires you buy and at no extra charge deliver them to the dealer right by your house where they will be installed at the market price. It's easy. The best price, the best service. Great people to deal with. Thank you for going to Target.
Welcome back to the Michael Patrick Leahy Show. Now, here's Michael Patrick Leahy.
Carmichael in studio, original All-Star panelist. We're going to continue our discussion of the article by Ken Koshigan, former speechwriter for Ronald Reagan and Richard Nixon, on the 3 reasons why Kamala Harris is going to lose. By the way, Ken Koshigan wrote speeches for Richard Nixon. He's only 80 years old.
He's 80?
He's a young 80-year-old.
Good gracious.
So if
he
you
was
think,
like in his 20s.
Well, Nixon left in 73, right? That's when
74.
He left. 74. He left office in 74. Thank you.
Which is 50 years ago.
50 years ago. So he was he was in his late 20s when he was writing speeches for Richard Nixon.
Yeah. I mean, he could have been. Depends on when he started writing speeches for Nixon. But anyway, that is quite something.
What's the third?
The third one is, I'm going to read the third one. Third, when she responded on The View that there wasn't a thing that came to mind that she would have done differently than President Biden, she confirmed the substance-free foundation of her cause by placing no distance between herself and the failures of her partner. Either she couldn't find a way to escape her baked-in California, quoting here, her baked-in California area political culture, or she was flummoxed by her own slippery evasions from left-wing orthodoxy. And so it goes on to say that makes for an unserious person seeking to navigate an uncertain world and fragile economy. Last-minute crazy charges and celebrity parades of Bruce Springsteen, Willie Nelson, Beyonce, and Michelle Obama merely reinforced the Potemkin village front of the unraveling Harris-Walz campaign.
Can I just stop?
Yeah.
That is an article written by a very accomplished speechwriter.
Yeah.
You can tell.
Yeah.
That was very well done.
Yeah. But I mean, it's so, by the way, Michael, as you know, I will not be easy. And so
You're at all of these events, all of the events, Crom, that are going to determine the future of the constitutional republic, you will not be here to comment on.
I will not be here to talk about, and so the next time you guys see each other after this show, the world will be different.
Yeah.
It just the future will be different, and we can then discuss that. But I'm reading a book called The American Covenant, and there's a section in here about Calvin Coolidge, and it gets to a little bit perhaps to what you and Roger Simon were talking about truth. And so let me just read a couple of sentences here in this thing. And this is Calvin Coolidge on the Declaration of Independence in a speech he gave in 1926. About the Declaration, there is a finality that is exceedingly restful. It is often asserted that the world has made a great deal of progress since 1776, that we have had new thoughts and new experiences which have given us a great advance over the people of that day, and that we may therefore very well discard their conclusions for something more modern. But that reasoning cannot be applied to this great charter. If all men are created equal, that is final. If they are endowed with inalienable rights, that is final. If government derives its just powers from the consent of the governed, that is final. No advance, no progress can be made beyond these propositions. And so the question is, are those true? Are those absolute, immutable truths? Those things that are asserted in the Declaration of Independence. Either they are, or they aren't. But if they are, then changing from immutable truths means that you are now basing your convictions on falsehoods. So, are we created equal? That's a question. The Declaration of Independence asserts that it's true. Should government be of the people, that we determine the rules, not the government, that we are governed by our own equal treatment under the law. So there are certain truths that are laid out in the Declaration of Independence that according to Coolidge are the foundation of human progress, and that if you try to go away from those truths, you are doing so at your own peril, and the result will not be good. And you were talking about with Roger Simon about are there certain immutable truths in terms of men and women,
right?
Male and female, and if there are, I know. I'm saying. I'm agreeing with you that there are. So if there are, then trying to say those truths are in fact false, if you go down that road, you can't possibly end up in a good place. You just can't. And so that's what the battle that we're seeing right now in front of us from a political standpoint is that's what the battle's all about. And what's interesting in this book that I quoted from, American Covenant, what he lays out is that the Constitution was originally designed for a society where there were differences of opinion, and the Constitution was designed to settle those differences politically in a civil way. And we now seem to be going off that course. Please, I know of course why, because I've always said it many times, but please.
Actually, because on the left look at the Constitution differently than we do.
Sure.
They look at it as a tool in which to find loopholes to subvert the intent of the overall intent of the Constitution. Mm-hmm. We look at it as an overall document to be the guideline for the conduct of governmental and private business.
Yes. And the reason that the left looks at it that way is that they are, and we've discussed this, the party of government. And you can't be a party of government and expand your power unless it is at the expense of those that you govern or, quote, rule.
Mm-hmm.
You literally can't expand what you have because you look at a pie as being of a certain size.
Mm-hmm.
And Democrats are more interested in getting a larger slice of the pie than they are in expanding the size of the pie. They just care about their own power vis-a-vis everybody else. And that's what this fight is about. And it's not just about economics, it's about reality. That's why this question of what is a woman, the left cannot answer that question because that would be answering something. And once they agree that there are any truths, then the question is, are we created equal? And they have to then answer that question. They don't want to answer that question either. Because if we are, then that gets into the way that they conduct themselves and the way they try to have power over others who are not part of their clan.
My question for you, Crum.
Yeah.
Are you prepared? Because now, next time we meet, we will have a good idea. We may not be totally resolved.
That's a fair point.
We'll have a good idea of who the next president's going to be. Are you prepared at this moment to put on your Crumstrodamus hat and tell us the answer to that question?
Well, I mean, I can give you, as I said a little earlier in the program, I look at the polymath poll, and the polymath poll, the last time I looked,
the predictions
market, where there's been, I think, like $2 billion bet. So that's,
people like to bet on this stuff.
I mean, what I'm saying is that's a lot of money bet. So it's not like $1 million can change that poll.
You need like $100 million to like even influence it.
Maybe influence it a little bit, and that would probably be for only a short time.
$2 billion bet on the outcome.
Yeah.
And what's the answer?
Right now, the last time I looked, which was yesterday afternoon, and I can look again, it was 64% Trump, 36% Harris, was what the betting markets are saying.
And yet,
and those betting markets they attempt to take into effect cheating. And voter fraud.
What's the real outcome?
They try to.
And yet, do you remember this little weasel, Alan Lichtman? He's a professor at American University.
Okay.
And he's the one who claims to have, correctly predicted the outcome of presidential races for the last 12 years. I think he's missed one. And he's got like some formula to use 13 factors.
Yeah, I've seen that.
And he put out, and the more I listen to the guy, the more I think he's really a detestable little weasel.
Well.
But he has done his electoral college projection.
Oh, it's changed now. It's now 61-38.
61-38. Mm-hmm. So down a little bit.
Yeah, Trump. Down.
Yeah. But his electoral college map has Kamala Harris at 282 winning, with Trump at like 260 and with 19 votes in Pennsylvania uncertain. What he does, though, that I think is very suspect is he puts Georgia and North Carolina in Kamala's camp. Well, I don't know why I don't know the basis of it, and I'm mentioning it just to say, okay, it is not. We see it a certain way. I see it a certain way. I agree with the polymath, but you and I were in this. You and I were in our at midnight on election night. And I went around the room with 5, of our political experts and said, "What's the probability Trump has won?" And the range was 85 to 90%.
Well,
and I got in the next morning, 5 o'clock, and I looked, and it had all changed.
Right.
Because hundreds of thousands of votes mysteriously appeared.
Yeah. When we left the studio, the voting stations or the counting stations in 6 cities had not been shut down.
Yeah, and on that unhappy memory.
Yeah, but also, this guy does have a pretty good track record
of some sort.
So,
and even though he's a weasel, I'm just my words, not yours.
Yeah,
he is a weasel. All right, back after this on Michael Patrick. We're going to try Stephen K. Bannon again. We'll see if we get him.
fellow Americans, my good friends, I've known them for a long time, at D.T. McCall & Sons have the deal of a lifetime for you, and nobody knows deals like I do. That much I can tell you. Nobody knows deals like I do. The lumber yards, they can hit you with hidden charges for up to $200 extra. They'll charge you for cords and hoses and haul-offs. Your money goes all over the place and out of the state, and most importantly, out of your pockets. How do they get away with that? I don't know how they do that, but on day one, if you buy from McCall's, we are going to stop the hidden charges as soon as you buy it. D.T. McCall & Sons has locations in Lebanon, Carthage, Lafayette, Cookeville, and Franklin, and they have been family-owned in Middle Tennessee for over 100 years. Head to one of their stores today or check them out at dtmccalls.com. You're going to love it. Believe me. Impersonator
Michael
not endorsed.
Patrick Leahy.
When you look at Kamala Harris, you have to think of her in the context of an upgrade from Joe Biden. As a campaigner, Kamala Harris represents a greater threat to Donald Trump than does Joe Biden.
The Michael Patrick Leahy Show on the John Fredericks Media Network. Weekday mornings, 10 Eastern, 9 Central. You better listen.
I don't think anyone should take this threat lightly. Mutts Cuts Grooming. This summer, never leave pets in vehicles while running errands. Even with windows cracked, 80 degrees can shoot up to 120 degrees, causing heat stroke, dehydration, and even death. So keep pets hydrated, shaded in cool areas, or just leave them at home. That's from Kathy, Candy, and the staff at Mutts Cuts Grooming. The people with warm hearts for those with cold noses. For your pet's grooming needs, call 931-645-9220. That's 931-645-9220 for Mutts Cuts Grooming in Clarksville, Tennessee at 1479 Tiny Town Road.
Hey there, this is Lenny McGill, founder and CEO of the Glock Store. As a proud sponsor of this show, you may have heard Michael Patrick Leahy mention us a few times over the past 4 years. But today, it's me on the radio telling you how pleased we are to be associated with Michael Patrick Leahy and his dedication to the highest levels of professional journalism. Michael Patrick Leahy has been threatened with jail time in bringing the true facts about that Nashville Covenant shooting to his listening audience. Michael Patrick Leahy, you keep doing what you're doing, and we here at the Glock Store will keep sponsoring your show for the good of Nashville and the entire country. And I'm personally inviting all of your listeners to come visit and shoot at the Glock Store. It's where Michael Patrick Leahy learned to shoot a gun for the first time and where he bought his own personal Glock 19. I'm Lenny McGill, founder and CEO of the Glock Store here in Nashville, just minutes from the airports, worth the drive from anywhere, and a proud sponsor of Michael Patrick Leahy and the Tennessee Star Report.
Welcome back to the Michael Patrick Leahy Show. Now, here's Michael Patrick Leahy.
Welcome back to the Michael Patrick Leahy Show. In studio, the original All-Star panelist, Crom Carmichael. On our Newsmaker line right now, our very good friend, American patriot, political prisoner released now, Stephen K. Bannon. Welcome, Steve.
Hey, Michael Patrick Leahy. How you doing, brother?
I'm so happy you're out, Steve. I read the article at the Daily Mail, and you were very critical of the Bureau of Prisons. And you said something interesting, Steve. You said Hunter Biden won't last and that Joe Biden ought to pardon his son right away. Could you elaborate on the danger?
Look, federal prison's tough. He's not going to, the kid's never had any discipline. He was thrown out of the Navy, a naval officer, after his dad gun decked to get him in, I think, in 30 days. He's never had any discipline. These prisons are flooded with drugs in gangs, and, he's just not going to make it. Look, I am the biggest proponent of, from the beginning of the laptop from hell and holding him responsible for what he did. But Joe Biden is going to leave here and he's going to pardon his son, there's no doubt. The son would never make it. He would be in the solitary confinement place within 24 hours, and psychologically that would break him down. So he'll pardon. People just got to understand he's going to be pardoned because he won't make it in a federal prison for the types of sentences. So that was pretty obvious. I'm critical of the Bureau of Prisons because the First Step Act, which President Trump put in, Jared Kushner's kind of visionary legislation, was to make sure we could reunite Black and Hispanic families, particularly around nonviolent drug dealers, right? And after serving their time. And President Trump was to cut that time if they showed progress in programming. And the Bureau of Prisons, because Kamala Harris is the queen of mass incarcerations, they haven't done anything. They only started really getting information out after I'd been there a couple of months because they understood that I knew, the First Step Act and how they were jerking me around, and they understood President Trump was up in the polls. So the senior leadership there is very concerned about President Trump, and it's just, it's administrative state. And you're seeing the meltdown over this weekend where we've got this fight teed up exactly where we want it. If you had told us 4 years ago when they stole the last one that in the final weekend that they had not built firewalls on this early voting, and we're on the South, North Carolina, Georgia, Arizona are looking solid, that we can, the fight could come up in Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, we would take that. We say this is fantastic. So it's simple. We just have to deliver. The human agency of our people. If we deliver on Tuesday with mass mobilization, Trump's the president. We take the Senate, we hold the House, and we control the government.
You said that the Black Hispanic inmates with you at Danbury Federal Correctional Institute despise Kamala Harris.
Despise her, because she was a prosecutor that believes in mass incarcerations, and they think she's just all happy. They despise her. I believe that 50% of this African American and Hispanic male vote in the world will vote for Trump, but I think that the other 50% will not vote for Kamala Harris. That's why I think they're freaking out. All they're pointing to is, the Taylor Swift, won in voting in Pennsylvania. Well, hey, that's fine, but they're down to under 300,000 gap where they needed 1 million. They have a firewall in Pennsylvania. There's no urgency among African American men in North Carolina or Georgia. They're in panic mode right now. Districts have not turned up. They have this gender gap, but that's not enough to deliver. And they're going to have a lot of black men, a lot of Hispanic men. Some of those may not vote for Trump, but they certainly ain't voting for Kamala Harris. This is what helped us in 2016, as you remember, Michael. Hillary came out of Philadelphia, I think, 250,000 votes lighter than what their model showed they needed. They made up some throughout the rest of the state and in Allegheny County and Pittsburgh, but they came up 42,000 short. That's why Trump won Pennsylvania. Same thing happened in Michigan. Same thing happened in Wisconsin back in 2016. I think you can see a replay of that.
I saw in your interview on War Room, you were there with Mike Davis. He suggested, and maybe it was jokingly, but I think this would be a great. He suggested that when Donald Trump is inaugurated, that he could appoint you acting head of the Bureau of Prisons. Is that something that you would seriously do a great job at it?
I think I think President Trump's going to put in a number of acting people into these roles. We get 4,000 political appointees. 3,000 can go right in immediately in the kind of the working level jobs. 1,000 have to be Senate confirmed, roughly. That takes a while, as you know, Michael. All your financial data, all your economic data, all that. That takes a while. And, of course, sometimes under Mitch McConnell, it's been a little hostile to President Trump's nominees. You couldn't put in acting people. If I was eligible to be acting, which I'm pretty sure I am, I would welcome Bureau of Prisons in some interim basis for 90 days or 100 days, given my experience, but also Bernie Kerik, who I think Bureau of Prisons, Peter Navarro, Jared Kushner, did the First Step Back. I think there's a whole advisory group that really wants to focus on prison reform. So here's what gets me. You have all these kids that have been drug dealers, and I'm not trying to defend what they did, but they're all incarcerated for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, and you have the cartels that we don't touch. And you have these foreign national criminals that she has not mass deported. So the Harris-Biden will not either arrest or mass deport foreign national criminals out of the United States, but they go out of their way to arrest American citizens and then don't give them the rights they have under the First Act from President Trump. And the reason is they don't want President Trump. It's very cynical. And I think our prisons need to be reformed, make these people more productive, and do it quicker and get them back out into society, reunite their families, and make sure they have skill sets they can start to earn a living. Once we do that, we cut the prison population, we cut out of control. But look, we got to start budgets. We cut it in the prisons by getting people, rehabilitating them quicker, get them back out, reunite with their family, make citizens. The administrative state looks at them as money. And that's not the way you should look at it.
Good point. Crom Carmichael is here in studio with us, Steve, and Crom is dying to ask you a question here.
Hey, Steve, how are you doing?
I'm doing
good. A question. side, it looks like we're going to take the Senate, and Mitch McConnell is not going to be the majority leader. Do you have any indication on who you think will be the majority leader, and is that your choice?
I want to make sure, and for all the White House, what's going to happen? The White House is going to do what? I want to make sure everybody. These conversations are secondary to what we're doing on Tuesday. Tuesday we have to represent. Now to the Senate, I think with West Virginia and Montana, look right now, we'll take control of the Senate. I believe if we do our job, there's other opportunities. I think Arizona now thinking a dead heat. One of the reasons Trump's doing so well, the other she's turned around these things. I think Michigan could be a possible pickup. Ohio, right, is a possible pickup with Bernie Moreno. Nevada. There's a number of these states that could be pickups. We could end up with 53, 54, maybe 55 if we do our job. But McConnell has put in $200 million people who are not winning right now, no money back at Kerry Lake. Obviously, McConnell, John Cornyn, and these guys all want to, be McConnell's lackeys and take it over. I think you have to have a fresh start. I think Rick Scott and others who would say I'm anti-McConnell because McConnell hates President Trump and he hates the Trump movement. He hates MAGA. There's no need to have a Senate that's not 1,000% on board with President Trump, particularly since it's President Trump's shoulders that are they're standing on to actually win this. So I think it's we can't be Cornyn, it can't be Thune, it can't be any of the lackeys. As we take the Senate this time, it needs to be a fresh start.
Well, I agree that the key is getting that vote on Tuesday, and I know that the War Room is a big part of that.
The War Room's just been fantastic. Yeah. Personal question for you, Steve. So you're in prison for 4 months, 120 days to be exact. They deny the proper use of the law to you. They deny your right to be released earlier under the First Step Acts. We had Congressman Andy Ogles wrote them a letter. By the way, I think Congressman Ogles may be sending them a preserve all documents letter, right, about the incarceration and longer than you should have been. Because, with a new House and a new Senate, there might be some oversight going on. My question to you, Steve, is you hit the ground running. You get out, you do 4 hours of radio, you do a press conference where you knocked it out of the park. Do you feel like you're back in the swing of things, or how has your life changed?
Well,
now
here's the thing. In prison, I was never, every day I would work through my team with the content on the show. And the guys did such an amazing job. I had no criticism and very little guidance. I was also had vast amounts of information sent to me from my staff. So, and was in contact with a number of people making things happen on like these ground games. So, you can communicate in prison. You just have to understand that the Department of Justice, main justice, Merrick Garland, is reading all your emails and listening to all your phone calls. You just have to be sensitive to that. But no, I was very, very dialed in the entire time. That's why I kept saying, next man up. Our staff did an amazing job. The co-host, an amazing job. But particularly the audience. The audience has been volunteering more. I mean, this grassroots precinct strategy, this is one of the reasons. Remember, the Trump campaign itself doesn't really have a ground game because they didn't have the money. You have these outside groups that you can't coordinate with, but now you kind of share data with because of the FEC decision. But the policy is the underpinnings of a lot of the local RNC efforts. Our people are more deployed than ever. And so I had a very strong sense of what was going on and can make observations as we went. So, I dropped about 20 pounds. I got in really good shape, and that's why just walking out and hitting it with the 4 hours and doing the press conferences, every day we've been doing 4 hours here, but also, spending hours Zoom calls or whatever with these volunteer groups, the grassroots groups, and that's what's going to power. I'm either going to get and go do work over the weekend or just do more Zoom. It's whatever we can scale up, because this is about mass mobilization now. And the staff did a great job. Real America's Voice did a great job. The show's back as number 2 podcast, but live streaming our numbers have been off the charts. So it's just we're stoked and focused. And like I said, 4 years ago, I'm looking at a Boston Herald. I'll send you that. I did an interview at the Boston. I gave a speech in Boston on 15 February of 2021. The headline of the front page, game plan, Bannon lays out strategy for Trump return. That was in February 15th of 2021. It's exactly what I said would happen has happened. And the weekend before, this is the fight we always wanted. If this is about us turning out more people on Tuesday than they do, come on, baby. They didn't build firewalls in the early votes. We got this teed up where our voter traditionally votes on Tuesday. They don't have enthusiasm. African-American men and Hispanic men are not voting. This is ours. This is within our grasp, and our agency can deliver a crushing blow to the globalists. And we can do this by just doing what we've been doing and deliver the goods on Tuesday.
We've got a minute. Crom has one last question.
Do you think we've got enough lawyers in the key battleground states? And
great question. You know, Bill, we won in Pennsylvania the other day. We got 3 days. Bill McGinley and these guys, Watley and the team at the RNC, the campaign are on it. We've won in Arizona. They got this 98,000 illegal alien potential they got to come up with on Monday. We're winning across the board because they're much more aggressive. I mean, they walked in and asked for a 3-day extension of Pennsylvania. That would never have happened previously. Do we have it? I think we do. I know the ground game is working. We're going to see if the legal, but so far, I like the cut of their jib. I like how aggressive they get.
And Steve, everybody who's a patriot in America likes the cut of your jib as well. Thank you so much for joining us, and we're so happy that you're out and a free man.
Leahy, keep Brian and Crom. Always good to talk to you. For your guys' audience, let's just get it done. Let's focus the next 4 or 5 days.
Stephen Bannon, a great American and
sure
a great
is.
friend.
Sure is.
Thank you, Steve, for joining us today.
Carmichael, CEO of Soul Tea, a supplement to help you have a healthier heart and stronger cardiovascular system. At Soul Tea, we regularly get emails from our customers telling us how Soul Tea has helped them. Like this one from Kelly. Hello, I'm 58 years old and have had high cholesterol for years. I wanted to stay away from prescription drugs. My husband and I have been using Soul Tea for about 13 months. My results have been amazing. My cholesterol levels went from 291 to 129. I am so impressed with Soul Tea and want to thank you. Now, in my own case, my bad cholesterol dropped from 130 to 89, and that was 20 years ago. I'm 75 years old and I take 0 prescription drugs. To get a great deal on Soul Tea, please go to GodzillaHeart.com, and when you check out, use the code Godzilla to get our best deal, which is 50% off your first shipment and then 3 bottles for the price of 2 thereafter. You don't have to live with a broken heart.
Do you suffer from
Try
declining
Soul Tea
bone and
today.
joint health? Hi, it's Tina with the John Fredericks Media Network. And when I heard about our company's Women's Challenge, I jumped on the opportunity to test this amazing supplement that's already restoring my bone density, soothing my joint pain, and helping me regain lost mobility. I've experienced so many benefits in such a short time with Native Path Collagen Peptides because they support my bones and joints, boost my metabolism, and unleash the most radiant skin and hair since my 20s. In just 2 weeks, my knee stiffness is gone, and I'm already hitting the gym more aggressively. And I get so many compliments on my glowy skin and shiny hair. Native Path Collagen Peptides are so easy to take. They're tasteless, odorless, and mix great with my morning coffee. Read thousands of 5-star reviews at getnativepath.com/Godzilla. Level up your self-care with Native Path Collagen Peptides. Try it risk-free for as low as $21 today. And get free shipping at getnativepath.com/Godzilla.
In 2008, the amount of concentrated time people could spend on a task without becoming distracted was 12 seconds. 5 years later, it was only 8 seconds, 1 second less than a goldfish. If you're often distracted or have trouble recalling information, you're likely to fall behind in the demanding, fast-paced 21st century. In other words, brain performance is more critical now than ever. Boost your brain power with Healthy Cells Focus Plus Recall. Science-backed nootropics to help you sharpen focus, concentrate longer, enhance recall, improve mental speed, learn rapidly, and be more alert. It's a pill-free brain supplement made with maximum absorption ingestible gel technology, designed to feed your brain at the cellular level. Take it for a test drive. Go to healthycell.com and use code GODZILLA for 20% off your first order of Focus Plus Recall. That's healthycell.com, code GODZILLA for 20% off.
Welcome back to the Michael Patrick Leahy Show. Now, here's Michael Patrick Leahy.
And welcome back to the Michael Patrick Leahy Show. In studio, the original star panelist, Carmichael. Before we go to our news potpourri segment, just give me your reaction to that interview with Stephen K. Bannon.
Well, he's a guy that had been put in prison for 90 days. It's
120.
rough. 120, and it's rough. He made it clear. He said, it's really interesting. He says he doesn't want Hunter Biden to go to prison because he said he won't get out, or he won't be able to. And so that's I think that shows a level of compassion.
Yeah.
And I'm not surprised by it either, by the way. But he's what I'd learned in that thing was I had no idea that he would be able to communicate with people outside of prison apparently hours a day. Now, everything he said or communicated, he knew that the Justice Department could see it. So I'm sure he had to be careful on what he said.
Yeah.
And but also what he said, wouldn't be a surprise to the Justice Department. And so I think he went in. He's a tough guy. Clearly a tough guy.
He's a tough guy.
Yeah. And now he's out and fighting for the victory that we need to have, as you say over and over again. Run through the tape. So that was a great interview, and I'm really glad because we've been trying for a week to get him. And I'm glad you got him.
I waited till today so you could
Well,
be
thank
here.
you. You're very nice. You're very
All right,
nice.
Crom, you know what time it is?
Yeah.
Time for News Potpourri.
Yes, Michael. It's that time of the program for little tidbits that merit the attention of our audience, but not an entire segment and have a touch of... Yes. Michael, this is an interesting headline here. Britain's new Labour Party government whacks the middle class. Now, here's what's kind of interesting about Britain.
Yeah.
They had a so-called conservative government for 14 years that did not govern conservatively.
Right.
It didn't govern far left, but it also didn't shrink government. It didn't, and the people, the voters there got tired of essentially a do-nothing so-called conservative government, and so they listened to the siren song of the left, which promised, we'll fix all the problems here, we'll fix all the spending problems, and we will not raise taxes on the middle class. Well, they've put out their very first budget, and they are whacking the middle class. But they're doing it through an increase in the employer payroll tax. So they're claiming that while employers are going to have to pay more, it's not a tax on you, which is exactly the way the left does things. It will not be honest, because if the employer has to pay more taxes on your payroll, guess what? They're not going to be able to give you the pay raise that you would have otherwise gotten. And so let that. And this is one came out today.
I think there's a new.
Please,
Nigel Farage is going to put a "Make England Again" game plan.
I love that guy.
Yeah,
he is. He's terrific.
He'll be the next prime minister. They're going to ruin the country for 3 or 4 years, and they're going to be so sick of it. He's going to become the prime minister.
Well, and by the way, the guy in Argentina.
Yeah, Mealy. He's got a pair, as they say.
He's doing a good job, and he
fired the foreign minister.
Well, he's having to fight with the left,
right.
but he is, and I'm not going to say that he'll ultimately be successful, but he's reduced the inflation down there dramatically, and so he's doing a good job. But he's having to fight a hardcore group of leftists.
Yeah.
This is an interesting one. Today, the Wall Street Journal: U.S. added 12,000 jobs in October. And they were projecting over 100,000, the so-called experts. And these so-called experts who are endorsing Kamala Harris, who are projecting big increases in jobs. And here's what's interesting, Michael. The number of full-time jobs since Biden-Harris have been elected is somewhere between 3 and 4 million.
Mm-hmm.
Half of those are government jobs across the country. And yet the number of adults that have come in illegally is 15 million. So if you have 15 million adults who are now here, and the number of full-time increased to 3 or 4 million, guess who's getting whacked by the illegal immigration? And that is the middle class and down.
Totally.
And so the very people that the left claims that they're helping.
I got one. You like Jerry Seinfeld, don't you? I like Jerry Seinfeld.
Well, he's kind of jumped the shark or whatever you call it lately.
Well, a little bit.
But in general, I think he's good.
So the kids from her private school are allowing the high school there, Ethical Culture Fieldstone School, cost $65,000 a year. That's where his kids now go to Duke, but they were in private school at Ethical Culture Fieldstone School. That school is allowing kids to take the day after the election off if they're emotionally distressed by the outcome.
Okay.
He thinks that's pretty stupid.
Well, good for him.
Jerry Steinfeld's right on that.
This was an interesting one. Russia has fined Google, and the amount of money that they have fined them is a 2, followed by 36 zeros, and which is more. The article says it's around 20 billion trillion. which is much larger than the global economy. And, we can laugh about that.
I'm reminded of what the Austin Powers, he comes out of out of being in cold storage for 40 years. He says, I'm going to charge $1 million. Sir, it's inflation. $1 billion. Well, he's like going $1 quadrillion. Yeah. He's whispering to Putin.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting about this is that Russia, this trial will be in Russia, and Google will be found guilty, and then everybody can laugh, but Russia will.
Russia trials are almost as bad. For a Russia trial for Google, is almost as bad as a trial of a conservative in Manhattan,
or Washington D.C.
Or Washington D.C.
Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
Good point.
Exactly. This is kind of funny. Do you remember I don't know if you saw it, but Nick Bosa jumped into an interview with his Trump hat, and pointed at his hat, and then jumped out.
Yeah.
The Speaker of the House of California is demanding the San Francisco 49ers trade Nick Bosa. I mean, these people on the left have no sense of humor.
Hey, the poll expert Nate Silver,
yes,
has made a prediction.
What?
55% probability of a Trump victory.
Okay.
45% Kamala.
Okay. Now, and I don't know what that actually, how that translates, because as we talked about, the polymath poll is 61-39. Right. This one is interesting. Republicans, the Republican who tanked Trump's chance at an extra electoral college vote in Nebraska, has endorsed the independent against the Republican.
That tells you who they are.
Well, no, not they, him.
Back after
Republicans need to get rid of him.
We're out of time. Thank you, Crom. Right. Another eventful day. When we come back, it'll be a new world.
Yes.
All right. Up next, Rob Carson. I'm Michael Patrick Leahy. See you Monday morning at 9 o'clock. Thanks for joining us. This is Michael Patrick Leahy. I want to say a word about my good friend Dustin Damon. Dustin is the best handyman in Middle Tennessee. Call Dustin today at 724-683-4400. That's 724-683-4400 if you have a job around the house that you just haven't gotten around to. If you're busy like me, you just may not have the time to fix that broken mailbox, repair the back porch, or get that old light fixture back to working properly. Do what I did. Call Dustin